So, Cole says we're recording.
We'll see.
Says the audio is working.
The Lost Files.
The Lost Files.
Chapter 10.
So apparently audio is working. My computer's working. The 1,700 cameras and lights are working.
The only thing not working is you because you're dressed like you're going on vacation. Going to Hawaii after this pod?
First of all, how awesome is vacation? So secondly, how awesome is vacation where?
It's the best ever. I felt like the last 2 weeks I've been on vacation. Just every day chilling at home, swimming, chilling, barbecuing.
Dealing drugs, as your neighbors think.
Whatever. It is what it is.
So, hold on. We'll get to vacation here in a minute, which I actually just booked a vacation. My wife's life is way better. My life is better when I have a vacation book because my wife's life is better, which makes my life better. But anyway, if there's something that screws up this podcast, first of all, we're done. That's a wrap. We're not doing this anymore.
Like the podcast ever again or this week's podcast?
Yes.
Okay.
Like both.
Stakes are high.
Like everything is out. Then second, if something does screw this up, at what part of the chain does it screw it up? Is it the mics? Is it the audio? Is it an upload? Or is it just Cole falling asleep drinking?
I thought I was the problem. I thought forever it was me was the problem with technology. And I said, hey, I'm just going to leave this to you. This is on you. You're the nerd with cameras and lights and film and all this junk. And hey, I think I could have run a tighter ship. I would just click record on the iPhone and call it a day.
Just iPhone audio. At the
Production would be zero, but it would be there.
We would never fail.
No reshoots.
No reshoots. Oh, man. Gosh, I don't even know where this is going to screw up along the way. But anyway, so I did book a vacation because we usually go in spring break. We either do a spring break and then a summer. Cachoeira has ruined all of my last Hawaii trips for, I think, 3 of them now.
He's ruined everything I've ever liked in life.
Yeah, pretty much. But so then I don't know why my wife was like, yeah, she was like, hey, instead of summer Hawaii, we'll do it in October. And then we'll do a few different long weekends in Arizona, like Sholo, the Grand Canyon. And I was like, well, why would we do that? I'm fine with that. And then she's miserable because we don't have anything on the schedule. And so I've been telling her for weeks, we'll book it. She won't book it. So finally I was like, all right, well, here's some stuff in Tampa. And there's a place called Anna Maria Island where we'll go, which is a fun little quaint town. And I'm like, here, book it. We're here. We're done. So we book an Airbnb, buy the tickets. It was like you'd given her ecstasy. She's bouncing around on clouds every moment of every day because we have a vacation booked. And I'm like, and this here is why you book vacations.
Wow, that easy, huh?
It's that easy. That easy. So I always have to have a vacation on the books. The second we get back from Anna Maria Island, I'm going to have to rebook a vacation and
just to keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Keep it going. Yeah, other than that, it's been a minute. You got some tax man issues coming up.
Yeah, tomorrow's getting solved.
So people are like, oh, you won $1 million. That's cool. I wish I won $1 million, which is cool. But now you have to pay $1 million taxes too.
Not quite.
Not $1 million. I mean taxes on $1 million.
Nah, not quite.
So
God bless the United States of America.
Hey, look, there's tax code we can always get around. But you have to pay more. You could say whatever you want. You're paying more now than you have your entire life combined in taxes.
Yeah, that's true. I made a lot of money the last 2 years before this, and I'm paying double what I paid in taxes for both of those years combined.
Yeah.
And that's with getting a big discount.
Yeah, with a good accountant doing the right stuff.
Jeez.
Yeah, so taxes are real, folks. Good luck with that, man.
I'm eating ramen for the next few weeks.
Yeah, for the next year, it's nothing but ramen to pay off that tax bill. Man, so we had a good week last week. Patreon went well. Jacoby, I don't even know if Jacoby, I don't know if Jacoby just had a shit game plan or in bad fight IQ or just, who the hell did he fight? Azamat just hit so hard. So I think it's a little bit of both, but
Usman is a good striker. He really is a good striker.
But honestly, I thought Jacoby was winning all of that, but he would just get hit with those one big bombs that would kind of to wobble him quite a bit.
For me, the whole play was based on cardio, and he didn't gas as hard as we had probably seen before. And then at the very end of the fight, how frustrating was it to watch Jacoby start to try to wrestle him with a minute left on the clock instead of just swing on him?
Or even try to wrestle him earlier in that second round to get him more tired,
exactly.
Get him down, get the submission. The other one, so this is funny. I didn't even realize this happened. Edwards. So I said, did you actually watch that fight?
Oh, yes. It was horrible.
Okay, so I claimed Edwards would win just on like
being around.
Just being around and whatever. So I'm watching that fight, but I was just kind of barely watching it, kind of here and there. And then the fight ends, and I was like, Lucy won that fight. I didn't watch the decision because I was so certain. I didn't even find out till the next day, like, they had given that to Edwards. And it just goes to show, you guys get mad at me for not doing the women's fights, but you have such close fights of people. You're like, man, like, how does this go? And then judging gets so bad too. And it's always on those women fights where it's like, I'm kind of over them right now, unless I see somebody who I really like.
Yeah, but even then, I really liked Lucy in that fight. I was like, this is not even going to be a close fight, and it really wasn't even a close fight, and it still loses. Yeah. It's like even when you win, you lose sometimes on those ones.
Yeah, I don't know. Women's fights to me right now, I'm over them right now.
I keep saying this. I really thought Bruno Brazil was going to win. I know that's a horrible one, especially in retrospect, but watching this girl who's just kind of a street fighter come in and get her ass beat by every single person she fights, and then Bruno Brazil looks like this world beater, and then she comes in and just gets demolished. Like, that was crazy to watch.
The hard thing about women's MMA is you can't judge based on, like, if somebody came into the gym right now, somebody comes in the podcast room right now, wants to fight you. If I see him spar with you, wrestle with you, whatever we want to do, I know you, so I can gauge how that person does. And because we know how men are, like, okay, I know, this and this and that, you go with this. But women, the disparity is so big that, like, a girl could do really well with another girl, but then do horrible because the athleticism and the speed is so different. Whereas in men, like between 4 and 5 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3, it's a close, margin. With women, between 1 and 2 could be 80%, and then 2 and 3 is like this huge gap or a narrow gap. You can't gauge it. You can't gauge the athleticism and the skill as well with women's MMA.
But it's not even that. It's like the skill and the athleticism mean nothing. Bruno Brazil has way more skill than Denise Gomez or whatever, and she's way more athletic. That girl just stands in the pocket and fucking throws down. She's just a dog on a bone. She's tough.
It's weird. Crazy stuff. Other than that was good. Week before that was pretty good. Overall, the last couple of weeks have been good. It's funny, last week, I think a lot of people were saying, a lot of bombs could go off, this and that. I wasn't as freaked out last week. I kind of liked picks, and I actually did really well I lost on Nicolau. I was incorrect. In Jacoby, I was incorrect.
The Nicolau one was kind of crazy. Didn't I say this on the podcast last week? I think Nicolau's better, and he's really good. I just have a bad feeling when he fights Royval.
Royval's just so... Dude, I always bet against Royval because he's so wild, and I always expect somebody to just tame him down. And he just keeps winning. I
think this was the best opponent that he ever actually beat.
Yeah. I think you're right. And Royval is good. Clearly he wins a lot of these fights. You've got to be good to do that. He's just so wild and does so many bad things so often that I'm like, all right, at some point it's like Dricus du Plessis. Like, the guy does so much bad stuff but keeps winning. And you're like, all right, how are we doing this? At some point he's got to get exposed and he just won't die. Yeah. Other than that, I think...
swept a little Sunday Fury action.
Okay.
This week, guys, we got back-to-back Bare Knuckles, back-to-back Bellators. We got LFA. We got UFC.
Got a lot of stuff.
We got so much stuff. CFFC. We got a ton of stuff.
There's
KSW.
Going on. Yep. And that's good because we got kind of a week... What everyone was saying about last week's card, I kind of feel about this week's card. Is there's some bombs that could go off.
I don't feel comfortable on this one.
I don't feel comfortable on this card kind of at all. There's a few things that I really like on the card, and then there's a lot of stuff I really am just like, ugh, there's a lot of other action to play this week. Play that stuff versus draining all on the UFC. Let's get in the card. Before we do, you guys, please like and share and subscribe and all that stuff. Check out the Patreon. A lot of fun. We kicked off all the assholes, so it's all awesome again.
Yeah, it's been good.
Check it out. Check it out in the show notes. And then one thing before we get going, people made a comment. They're like, well, we got to take what you guys say with a grain of salt. When you say you like somebody or you don't like somebody, how do we know that we can even trust? Excuse me, guys. We're saying we like them in the spot, in the card, like not like we're friends with them.
As fighters, yeah. It has nothing to do with them personally.
Yeah.
Like I chilled with Royval after his fight in Phoenix.
Yeah,
He's a nice guy.
Nothing to do with anything. But people were like commenting, well, we got to take it with a grain of salt when you say you like him and when you don't like him. It's like, why are you watching the podcast? That's the whole thing is I like Royval here. We just don't always say here.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, just in general. All right, let's get into this. And in case you're curious, I'm not taping women's fights for this either. Anyway, we have Batgerel, Danaa, and Brady Heistand, which I'm not talking about. I don't know if you plan on saying anything. Danaa has been with us for over at Fight Ready for
a while.
Man, 6-9 months every day. All I'm going to say is a few things about Danaa. First of all, he's a big 35er.
Okay, I thought that's all you were going to say. Is he's just massive. Yeah, he's huge.
He's big. We were training with him the other day. It was like me and Haley Alatong were going in. I go in early with Danaa and work privately with him before practice, like an hour a day. Like
this is tidbits you're not going to get on any other show, guys.
Yeah. Like like 2, 3, 4 days a week and stuff like that. So a lot of times, like Haley will come. He just got back from China. He was visiting his family, and we were just joking. First of all, we joke and we call Danaa a real Mongolian and Haley a fake Mongolian because Haley was born and raised in Inner Mongolia, which is like closer to the Chinese border. Or I could be getting this wrong. Anyway,
we're going to do a lot of that talk, I think, on this show. I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Okay. So then Haley, it's really interesting. Haley was born in Mongolia, but around 15 or 16, they took him to China, and then he basically put him in the Chinese wrestling program. And then, so now he's pretty much like Chinese at this point. And we actually had after a fight, Haley won after one of his last fights. And the cameraman, Mike, who, at the UFC, held up a flag. And I think I mentioned this before on the podcast.
I don't know that you have. You've told me.
Okay, I might have mentioned it. If I did, I'll make it quick. But anyway, so Mike grabs a Mongolian flag, and Haley has like just a feared look on his face. Like scared, not like fake, like, oh no, like, oh man, I saw a ghost. And we're like, what? And he's like, no flag. Like, we're like, what? So the translator's like, dude, he can't use a Mongolian flag. Like, they'll kill him. We're like, what? And he's like, no. And like, they took him. He's Chinese. Like, if he flies a Mongolian flag, like, his family has disappeared. And we're like, whoa, okay. So he just went no flag and whatever. But anyway, so Haley, we joke, is a fake Mongolian because he grew up in China. Danaa grew up in Mongolia, and like, those two things are very, very different. He doesn't even speak Chinese. They have to speak Mongolian to him because he does not speak Mandarin or anything. And he is like Mongolian.
Can they understand each other?
Yes, only because Haley speaks Mongolian, not because Danaa speaks Chinese.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a different.
And it's not like Spanish and Portuguese where it's close enough. It's completely different.
I don't know. Maybe they can kind of like piecemeal some stuff together.
How does Eddie Chalk communicate with them?
We just point.
No bullshit. I went to practice last week, and I was training with Haley. And then after practice, I saw him sitting like with the white guys there, like joking and laughing. And I'm like, how the hell? So
Haley's English is getting a lot better, just in general. Danaa's is not. But what's funny is like I go in with Danaa just a lot of times just one-on-one. It's just us drilling stuff. But I actually like it. It actually has made me a way better coach. We don't talk. Because if he's drilling with you, I'm like, hey, grab the wrist, hey, this, hey, that. So what happens is like I drill a move and we go like one-on-one and we just flow and move. And if he's doing it correctly, okay, we let him drill. If he's not, I won't let him drill it. I'm like, no. And then I'll like push and go. And then instead of telling him stuff, I just do the move how I would do it. And I can't explain it using words. So I've just got to do the move. And it's actually made me way better at coaching because there's a lot of stuff that I say during like, hey, shoot a double leg, grab the leg, blah, blah, blah. But as I'm actually shooting the double leg, I do 7 other things that I'm not even registering that I'm doing. And so with Danaa, I've actually learned I'm doing a lot of other stuff that I never even knew I did. And so now I'm explaining, adding more details. And and I'm bringing that to the whole team as it's as a whole, not just with Danaa, but
Gets your mind thinking in a different way. Yeah,
it's just really interesting us training together because it's like silent. Every once in a while I'll translate just if I really need a detail. And then every once in a while Danaa will come over and record me doing it if he really likes something so he could see it and then look at it later. But really, really a fun experience having guys who you don't speak the language.
And in reverse, it's really fun too. I went to Austria and then I went to Costa Rica, and both times when I was taking classes, they would teach it in German or in Spanish. And so as that person, you have to learn how to just understand the technique without understanding the language. And it helps you be a lot more observant and understand it a lot better. Yeah. And it's actually funny. I had the chance to train with Danaa a few times, like helping him with his chain wrestling and doing jiu-jitsu when he came over to Siege too. Yep. And it's so fun, like going with someone and you have the one universal language that everybody understands. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, fighting.
Yep.
That's it.
So yeah, anyway, that's it. That's my spiel on Danaa. Really nice guy. Hope he goes out there and kills it. Brady Heistand is tough.
Never bet a white.
Never bet a white. All right, we've got Priscila, Cachoeira, and Karine Silva, which I didn't film because, again, I'm over filming women right now. Only thing I'm going to say on any of this is Priscila, what the hell? Like, it's an Ariane Lipsky thing. Do you remember that? We're like, Ariane's so good. She's so tough.
I can't get Ariane right. I keep trying.
She is determined to screw us up horribly. She looked horrible against Priscila, gets like knocked out and beat up and killed, and goes and puts the performance of a lifetime on against JJ. So again, women's MMA folks. Do you have anything on this one to talk about with Priscila and Karine?
I actually do. I accidentally bet this one way too heavy. I meant to just put in an opener on Priscila, and actually the line moved against me, unfortunately. I hate Karine Silva. I hate her. She's like one of those Hail Mary submission kind of girls. She falls over with the gust of wind. She slows down a lot. I don't like anything about her game. I bet my princess, what's her name? Pollyanna.
Fiona?
No, Botelho.
Oh, Botelho, yeah.
Yes, against her. And she lost, and it just pissed me off. I got Priscila here. I think she's a lot meaner. I think her striking is just more in your face, and that's going to be a high pace and hard.
Big overhand, 700 times loading up.
Hard to deal with for Karine, who's just going to fall over, pull guard, and just throw up Hail Mary submissions. So I got Priscila in this matchup. I'll take that plus money.
Okay, nice. I like it. Moving along quickly, we have Francis Marshall and William Gomis. Marshall we saw in Contender, and these guys, we've talked about this before. And Gomis, of course, is from France. He debuted on the French card, and now these guys are fighting each other. But we talked about Marshall before because we talked about all of these guys getting Contender too early. And Marshall fought Rojos, who was the perfect opponent for him in that situation. But he got to Contender when he was 5-0. Ended up 6-0, beat Rojos, and is now 7-0. So he's getting better. He's getting more experience. But man, he has not had a lot of experience leading up to this. And I like that kid. I just hate that the UFC is bringing a lot of these guys up just so early. Mm-hmm. But it's cheap talent. It's a cheap way to fill the bottom of a card, and they need those fights filled because they get the ESPN Plus money. So whatever. But we talked about Francis before. Pretty recently, I feel like he fought just a couple months ago. They have him listed at 5'9", but in my head he's kind of short. So I feel like he might be a 5'7", 5'8", who
probably my height,
claiming is 5'9", maybe not, whatever. He's athletic, he's young, he does most stuff pretty well. He's pretty well rounded. If you were to ask me like what type of a fighter he is, I would say I don't know. I would say he's just a well-rounded type of guy. His striking's not amazing, but even in his striking, he's predominantly a boxer. Doesn't kick much, doesn't check kicks much. His wrestling, if he wrestled in high school, it wasn't a lot because his wrestling's kind of MMA. I learned to wrestle in MMA, kind of rush you to the cage. And his timing is fine. His cage wrestling's not bad, but it is not wrestling. It's MMA wrestling.
Yeah.
And, his jiu-jitsu is serviceable. It's fine. He does the right stuff. On the other side, we have Gomis, who is a striker, but will wrestle
offensively. He's very good.
Offensively, a good amount.
I gave this comparison. I still like it. He's the French David Onama.
Yeah.
Like he's very athletic, will wrestle offensively.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect comparison.
And even defensively, when we saw it, Jarno shot on him, and some other guys will shoot. He will sprawl and hip hard. Like, he doesn't like float and wait. Like, he's explosive and he wiggles and
really good cardio for how he fights too.
Yes, does a lot of the right stuff. He's tall. I think they have him listed at 6 foot. One of the things that he does, and I really like it, is he is predominantly a southpaw. I'll switch a little bit, but he throws left cross, right hook, and then followed by that right hook, this right middle kick comes up a lot. And he'll throw, for the most part, middle kicks. Every once in a while, he'll throw it high. But it kind of trails, and you don't expect it because that hook finishes, and you're like, oh, we're done here. And then a middle kick comes in a little bit later, and he'll do the same thing with a jab. He'll throw, like, hand combination, throws the jab on the finish, and then the high kick right afterwards, which is, there's a little delay in the timing of it. And I really like that. I like his striking. On the other side of that, Marshall, what he does, his hands are pretty decent, and he's got a chin, he's down to throw. It worries me on a striking level that he throws too many lead hooks, and those lead hooks are short. And so when he regularly will try to check hook, or he tries to throw a 3-2. And that is the shortest punch that you have, is your hook and uppercut. And so he throws that, and I don't really know why. It's like throw a 1-2 to close that distance. On a 3-2, especially against a opposite stance fighter, you're going to be so far away. I think I like Gomis here. I think he's going to do all of the right things standing. I think his volume is there. He can take a shot. I like his movement. The other thing he does too, and watch this. I noticed this on a couple of his last fights. Normally his feet, depending on as the fight goes on, his feet are wider and he's moving more traditionally. A lot of times he'll stand really narrow, almost like he is just in line at the grocery store, and he's waiting for you to come in. So he's ready to flick front kicks up at you. And you're like, whoa, he's really narrow, really, really awkwardly standing. And you'll see that. But I think his offensive wrestling, even if he doesn't shoot, but he'll mix it up, and his ability to, defend some shots, do the right stuff, his range, his reach. I like Gomis here kind of a lot.
I have been back and forth on this one all day. I actually played Gomis when the line dropped. I think it came out like plus 330 Gomis was.
Really? Gomis was plus 3?
For 30 seconds. Okay. And then the line
corrected
dropped.
And went.
So I played him early thinking this line is going to get a lot closer. And again, it moved against me. This card has been having crazy line movements, and I can't nail it down. I thought the same thing as you. All the way until today, I even tweeted out, like, I think I love me some Gomis this week. And then, I'm talking to some guys in the Discord, and then they're like, oh, Marshall's going to kill him. He's going to wash him. And I'm like, really? I don't think so, because Gomis is not giving the bad traits. He's not laying on his back for 3 rounds. He's got good takedown defense. His cardio looks clean to me, and his striking is very slick. He's bringing kicks at angles you don't see, and he is fast. And
he has good volume.
Really good. And the thing that bugged me about Marshall, and the reason I even was going down this path, is I just remember him getting tagged up a lot by Rojo, and us going, ooh, like if that was a little heavier puncher, he's going out. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Gomis is necessarily a heavier puncher or is as hand-oriented, but he is a fast striker, and I can see him landing cleanly and just honestly out.
He's not as beat up as Rojo's was.
Yes.
And he's taller, and Marshall's chin is in the air.
He fights like this, and you're right. He's short arms, and he throws short punches. Gomis is so fast to me. So I've kind of been sitting in this chair going like, all right, your opinion is probably going to sway me one way or the other on this one, because I originally loved Gomis. Then I'm starting to watch Marshall, and the Rojo fight was not as bad as I had remembered.
It wasn't. It actually wasn't. Rojo's did better than...
I had a big play on Marshall in that fight, and then watching it back, it wasn't as bad as I had thought. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's going to stock Gomis down for 3 rounds, and maybe the round 3 he can get him. But I don't like counting on that. I don't like counting on him having to get a 3rd round finish. Honestly, I think his path is he's going to have to wrestle, but I don't think his wrestling is fast enough or good enough to get Gomis down. Even Gomis got tossed by judo by Jarno Aarons and came right back to the top. He re-rolled him. Man, I love his body kicks. I love his straight punches. He is fast. The way that he moves. Usually, I say that's a bad thing when when your back is kind of circling the cage and you're moving like that while someone stalks you down. But it's kind of like you've been using the Basharat example a lot recently. And that's what it's going to remind me of. You have a slow, plodding guy chasing someone down while the other guy sticks and moves, sticks and moves, sticks and moves. So I think I'm going to stick with my original pick. I'm going to go Gomis on this one.
Okay, I like it. I think it's and. I mean, Marshall's tough and he's good, and
it should be a good fight.
Exactly.
The line is wide to me.
Yes,
I think
it's
it's
going to be
too
a
wide.
good fight. That's the thing it's going to be a good fight. I don't think like anyone's going to dominate anyone like crazy.
Yeah, if Marshall wins, understand it. I can definitely see a path to victory for him. Stalking him down, big heavy punches, wrestling. There's a lot of paths for him.
But all of the things that I see, I'm going with Gomis on it.
All right, we're on it.
Mohammad Usman, Junior Tafa. Let me hear.
Boy, has the line movement been crazy on this one.
Really? I mean, what does it start at? I haven't looked at. I only, just so you guys know, and I've talked about this before. I refuse to look at lines before I look at tape because I don't want that to sway me into who I believe is supposed to win or not.
And a lot of times it does. And I told you, I've always been the opposite, where I look at it as a roadmap. Where how did these people get to that?
See, and I don't. I want to go. Like if I'm like, oh, so and so is gonna kill this person, and the line is close, I'm like, oh, okay. Or if I'm like, oh, this like whatever. I like my own read over the lines because those lines could. Because again, if I only wanted to hear what the lines had to say, you just bet the lines. Oh, whoever's the favorite is the guy who's gonna win. I don't want that. I want my own thought first, and then I can start to go, oh wait, am I crazy here? What do I think? Where am I at? So tell us about the lines first.
Okay, well,
who started as a big favorite?
Well, it was a pretty close line, and then it spiked up to Junior Tafa was minus 300. Like on Saturday night, he was minus 300, and now he's even. Pick him.
Oh,
that's
okay.
a massive jump in a day. So it's a pick him with Usman. Now, I went back, and there's a lot of chatter in the Discord that Tafa is supposed to kill Usman, right? They're like, okay, he's a Glory kickboxer. He was at one point ranked number 4 in Glory. A lot of experience, obviously the Tafa name. And then I'm watching it, and I'm going, I don't know about him. I'll say this. Going from big gloves to MMA gloves it's not even the same game. Watching Tafa in MMA, I'm like, his striking looks sloppy. He's just kind of he's throwing everything he has. He's not being technical at all. He's just a big swinger and he's fighting some cans and getting them out of there. Watching him in Glory, he's clean. He's technical. His boxing looks good. His low kicks are nice. Like everything about him is really clean in Glory. And I find that with my own stuff, sparring with Hey Lee the other day, last week, with MMA gloves, I'm like, man, there's so many more openings, and I feel so messy.
Scary. Like,
it's scary.
Scary. Those little gloves, man.
Versus sparring with him in big gloves, and I'm like, man, I feel clean and technical. He can't touch me. I feel safe. It's a different ball game. It is just a completely different ball game. I just don't. I don't. There's two things I don't like. I don't like how Tafa fights in MMA. Now, watching one of his Glory
Specifically what don't you like on
He goes guns blazing. He's Terrence McKinney right now. He's got not a lot of fights, and he goes trying to murder people in round 1. And if he doesn't get that, it's not like he's a marathon runner. So then what? Usman's big problem has always been kind of volume, and he's just sticking around, and honestly, not a lot of skills. But he is big. He is athletic. He's probably on every supplement known to man. And he's got more MMA experience. He's got, I guess, a grappling edge, if you want to call it that. So, like, paying minus 300 on Tafa seems insane to me. Like, I could never do that. I think fight doesn't go is pretty safe here. I think I'm actually going to go Usman on this one. If Tafa doesn't knock him out within the first 2 minutes of the fight, 3 minutes of the fight, I think Usman's going to grind him out. Usman hits hard. He's big, strong guy. He just kind of bum rushes people, and honestly, that may be enough. But really where I think the problem with Tafa is I think he's going to give everything he has round 1, and then he seems to slow. Even in his most recent Glory fight, he had an amazing round 1, killed the guy. He slowed down so bad, he was just in mud the rest of the fight and ended up losing a decision because he just couldn't throw. Now you add in grappling, you add in 5-minute rounds against a guy that's going to try to press you on the cage. I want to love Tafa. I would love to load the boat on Tafa because I understand the play. It's just like Gaston from last week. But I think I'm going to go Usman on this one.
Okay. I look at this fight as what the Ultimate Fighter finale was supposed to do. Was it Panga?
Yeah.
However they say that.
Paunga.
He was the better fighter, and he kind of pieced Usman up. There was a lot of times where Usman just swung in air, just airballed everything. And then he got hit with that short little left hook, and it sat him down. I kind of look at this Tafa fight like that too, but I think Tafa's a little bit faster and a little bit better than Pauga in MMA striking-wise. And striking-wise, he's a lot better. And MMA striking-wise, I think the field is narrowed a little bit. And I think he throws with a little bit more bad intention, so I think there's that. If I had a crystal ball and you told me that this fight would not go to the ground, I say Tafa wins this.
Not even close.
Not even close. Usman running a blast double and holding him to the ground, on the ground and holding him on the cage. That's what worries me right here. Striking wise, I lean Tafa kind of heavily. I actually.
That's not a lean. You're just going to go Tafa. Me too.
But even if he fades and gets tired, I still I'm on the Tafa train. I think it's there. It only worries me is if Usman starts to wrestle. I like your analogy with Bolanos and Phillips of last week.
Yeah, same thing.
I do think that that's going to happen, and I've got to go. I lean Tafa on this for kind of the same thing. Is Usman does so little. There's so much inactivity, and what we do know is that
he's not very good.
He's not very good. He's just big and strong.
Yeah.
He does hit hard. I've got to assume that Tafa, again, training with his brother, training with his giant-ass New Zealander Samoans, has been getting him ready for this little by little by little. And I don't think that Usman is so experienced that he is definitely more experienced, but not 20 fights experience. So I do think, but I don't think he's some great fight IQ experienced ultra vet, as we would say.
Yeah.
I think his path to victory is shooting and grinding on the cage. But even then, it's not, he doesn't close distance well. It's not like he's swimming and swinging and covering it. I got to go Tafa on a lean. I'm not shouting from the rooftops here. I've got to believe he's going to do more of the right stuff and connect when he does throw. And I think him actually being a little bit almost too eager to just throw and gas himself out. I think in this fight, it's going to actually serve him well, because even if I think if he lands, he can hurt Usman. And if he doesn't land, Usman kind of does so little that it's not going to put him in so much danger. You have a volume guy who's just there, who's just going to redline you and go. I lean Tafa on it with very little conviction, because there's so much unknown about Tafa that I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to change my pick to Tafa too. I still hate it. It's not a spot I would feel comfortable putting a ton down.
Well, because there's so many unknowns. We have a lot of unknowns on Tafa, and then what we know about Usman is that he doesn't do a lot.
If Tafa doesn't fight like an ape, I think this is an easy fight for him. Yep. He actually has shown in one of his fights, that guy just kind of bum rushed him and tried to take him down for the whole fight. Actually did get him down, was on top.
And he popped up.
He showed good hips initially, which I think is better than most guys, and then he did end up standing up. If he just doesn't swing like an idiot, I think he destroys him, probably knocks him out. Yep. If he fights like his glory fights, like his early glory fights where he's technical and clean and not just hands down, hands down, just swinging hard.
Just clubbing.
I think that he wins easily. God, it's hard to count on Usman having a good game plan, because I just don't think he's a very smart fighter.
Yeah.
It's hard to count on him keeping him down. And hopefully, actually, maybe the bright lights of the UFC makes Tafa nervous enough where he doesn't want to throw insane like that, and he is a little bit more smooth and technical. So I'm gonna switch to Tafa, but not a ton of conviction.
Yeah, I'm not going crazy on it, but I lean that. Hey, before we get in the next fight, what watch you wearing?
I got the Omega Aquaterra on today, or the
Seamaster. That's what I thought that was. And I keep looking at the Omega Aquaterra with the blue face.
I just bought that. It's a new series out. I got the bronze one.
Okay.
It is probably my favorite piece out of all that I have.
Let me see that really quick.
This is an old one. This is the old one.
This is that. Yeah, I love the Aquaterra. I love the new ones, and that sea bluish turquoise face on it is what I keep looking at.
I got that. I think I was actually the first one. So I went to Scottsdale Fashion Square the day it came out, and I was the first one that they sold that colorway to, the bronze one. The blue one in person, it is gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
The only reason I didn't get it is because I already have so many blue face watches or blue style watches. So I needed something a little bit different than the rest. Yeah. But this is, sorry guys, we'll get into watch talk. So there was a guy who worked for Rolex, left Rolex to go work for Omega, and he redesigned the watches. So the band is actually the same band as a lot of the Rolexes.
Okay.
At least the metal strap. So that's why it looks so clean. And the faces are amazing. Honestly, it's like a 51-hour power reserve, automatic. It's gorgeous. Open face back. So go to Omegas. I think it's the best bang for your buck.
I like it. Next up, we have another women's fight. Karol Rosa, Norma Dumont. Norma, big hip Dumont. Just stand there and not get taken down by nothing more than heavy, big hips. You got to read on this, or are we skipping it?
I, for the most part, want to skip it. I'm kind of annoyed with the heights of everything. Norma Dumont's listed at 5'7". Okay, she doesn't look 5'7" to me. She looks really short and wide. And then
5'7" wide.
Yeah, 5'7" wide.
They went wide on that one.
Karol Rosa is listed at 5'5", but she looks super tall.
Yeah.
And she just fought Lena Landsberg, who's listed at 5'7", and DC's first comment was, "Oh, she's taller than Landsberg." So what the hell? Yeah. She's not 2 inches shorter than Norma Dumont. They're going to face off, and she's going to be a foot taller than Norma. Only thing that's kind of concerning in this fight is, first of all, I think Norma's a good striker. I really do.
She's not bad.
She manages distance well. She's got good low kicks. I wouldn't want to get kicked by that fat-ass leg.
Yeah.
But her IQ is, like, awful. Like, she doesn't wrestle when she should wrestle, and she could make life so much easier.
Yeah, and her offensive wrestling's not bad, and her cage control's not bad. She does a lot of the right stuff.
I like Rosa a lot. I mean, she's got a great jab. She's super active. But I think I said this when she fought Sarah McMahon. When she's on her back, she's just a fish out of water. She can't get back up. And I think Norma's got good jiu-jitsu. The other concerning thing is this is at 145, which obviously I think favors Norma. I think I like Norma in this fight, being as she just fought a high-volume boxer in Danielle Wolf and did pretty well. Good,
yep. My only issue with she's not freaking Norma. I don't know why I was thinking Karol. Norma is, I wish she was a smidge, a fraction of a better athlete. Just if she just had a little bit more speed or a little bit more power, because I feel like she really does do a lot of the right stuff. Her arms are a little short. If she was just a little bit faster, like I would go, man, Norma's like, I like her. She's not bad, especially with those hips where she stops most shots. And she stops the shots with very little energy because it's like hitting a wall. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on that one.
All right. Yeah, I don't really want to. I'll go Norma just for the sake of it. Honestly, I think Karol is going to win. I don't know why.
Okay. Yayha, Montel Jackson. Man, this one is so we have a couple of these fights. I said the Usman Junior Tafa fight is what the Usman Pauga fight should have been. And this fight is what the Yayha Kang fight should have been. Kang on the outside, jabbing, striking, and then Yayha shooting, Kang defending, moving away. But then we have a zero fight IQ guy, and he's throwing low kicks and grappling with Yayha. What the fuck? So then we have Montel, who is going with people, and he's striking, and he did some really good fight IQ stuff with Erosa, not Erosa, Arce. Julio Arce in his last fight. Went out there, shot, clinch, pushed him up against the fence, take away his boxing, which we know is good. Great. Then you watch him with JP Buys, and he's shooting and clinching, and he's like murdering Buys, but instead of just like backing off immediately and bailing, he's going to the ground with him and re-grappling. I'm like, ugh. I think Montel's wrestling and his jiu-jitsu and his overall grappling is better than Kang's, whatever you want to call him. But I just don't like how comfortable he is grappling when he has such an edge in the striking. I mean, Montel has, a beautiful jab. He's tall. He's rangy. He knows how to use his movement. He knows how to use his reach. He does all of that stuff well. He doesn't kick as much as Kang does just naturally, and their opposite stance, which is going to take away some of those low kicks as well. Kang was a southpaw. Yanni was, or maybe they're both orthodox. They're both orthodox, and Kang was throwing right low kicks. Yayha's catching him and shooting. Montel's a southpaw. You're not gonna catch an inside low kick even if you were to throw it. Everything to me points to Montel should tag Yayha up on the outside and beat him up. But even so, even if it does go to jiu-jitsu, I think he's good enough to not get finished. Just like Kang, like Yayha, I mean, yeah, he's pulling heel hooks on Luke Sanders and kind of, doing some stuff like that. But I feel like his days pulling those marvelous just submissions out of his ass are gone. And I think Montel is going to clean him up as long as he just isn't too confident and too cocky grappling with him.
Yeah, it's tough. It's because we're big Rani Yayha fans over here. We love it. You told me a long time ago you just need to be Rani Yayha.
That's it. Pull guard.
Pull guard,
Always.
Find a way to get to the back, done.
Yep.
We do love him. I love him, actually. I think he's...
Joking aside, he is one of the few purist jiu-jitsu people left in the UFC. And for as bad as he is everywhere else besides jiu-jitsu, he does do a good job of finding his way on top.
I actually don't think he's that bad standing.
His standing's not the worst. He's just so stiff and predictable. And you see it. And his wrestling's not bad. It's just not great. But he does a good job of freaking finding his way
He
on
knows
top.
he doesn't need wrestling. That's the thing.
That's it.
He can wrestle sometimes, but then when he doesn't, he knows, okay, I'm going to pull. Actually, it's funny watching tape for this. I watched Grant Dawson do that same thing where he was exhausted in the third round and he pulled guard just to come right back up on a single leg, which is the Rani Yayha special.
Yeah.
I chatted with C-Rod, leading up to his fight with Rosa. I said, hey, who are you training with out there? He said, I got Sergio Pettis, I got Montel. And I said, how's Montel? How's the rounds with Montel? He said, striking, it's pretty even. He goes, Montel is a dog on the ground. He is so freaking good. I think Montel finishes him. I mean, Yayha is old, unfortunately. Montel, they've given every tee-up fight. It's time for him to become a star.
Yeah, it really is. He's good.
He's getting the O'Malley treatment. He's very talented, but he just doesn't talk. It's weird. But yeah, I think he's going to finish Yayha inside the distance here, unfortunately. And I love Rani, but it's passing of the guard.
There you have it, folks. There you have it. Ricky Glenn, Christos, Giagos. Give me your thoughts. Go.
Oh, God, this is another one that just doesn't interest me at all. I thought I knew where I wanted to go with this one earlier in the day. In my mind, I had watched a lot of Ricky Glenn film, and I'm like, man, he's so good at stuffing takedowns, just good sprawl and brawl, good long, clean, straight punches. And then watching the Grant Dawson fight, and I know it's Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson gets everybody down, and honestly has very good top control. But the way that he got down and then just laid there and had to pretty much count on Grant Dawson gassing was a tough look. Giagos only losing to good guys, but I don't think he in himself is very good. He's losing to who he should lose to. And I know his cardio's bad. I just wish Ricky was a little bit higher volume on the feet. I wish he threw a little bit more with a little bit more conviction, and I would feel ready to load the boat on him because I don't think that Giagos is going to submit Ricky Glenn. I don't think his cardio is good enough to hold up for 3 rounds. But no, I'm going to go back to Ricky Glenn. I just wish Ricky Glenn would put it out there more. A little bit higher volume. I think Giagos is going to get tired and we see a second, third round finish for Ricky Glenn.
I like Glenn here kind of a lot. We fought when Ricard Close was with us. He fought Christos Giagos. And we knew he had one good round in him.
Yeah, and he trains at such a good gym, and he's fought a lot of good guys. It's crazy you still have one round. Well, now he does.
He was in L.A. forever, and he just recently moved to Sanford or Killcliff a couple fights ago, but which, is probably going to help him just sparring, getting used to those guys and grinding out more. But Ricky Glenn has great cardio, and he went with Grant Dawson. So if Grant Dawson had 2 rounds before he death gassed, Christos has kind of 1 round before he death gasses. He's more athletic. I don't think he's as strong as Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson is clearly
he's
really
an ox and can wrestle.
Yes, but he's fast and dynamic, so Glenn's got to watch out for that. But Glenn has good striking. I loved his takedown defense against Dawson, the chest locks, wrap, chest lock throws, getting him off of him. And then again, of course, Grant Dawson would chain and chain and chain. I don't think Christos is anywhere near as good of a chain wrestler as Dawson is.
He's a jiu-jitsu guy primarily.
Yep. I don't know if he's going to get the finish just because Ricky Glenn's style, he's not always going for broke and doing as much. I wouldn't be surprised to see him lose round 1 and he comes on heavy in round 2 and 3. I think I think Ricky Glenn is a solid bet here, probably over a round and a half too.
So apparently Ricky's wrestling coach just died.
Oh,
like this week. How does that factor in for you? Have you noticed a big difference when people there's close deaths in the family
So first of all, a wrestling coach in a family is different, but it's not like he forgot all of his wrestling because of this. And
no, that's not what I mean. I guess motivation wise.
For me, I'm pretty cold hearted. Like
it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't bother me. Yeah. So like, I mean, both of my parents passed away. Like, it's not to be callous, but it is what it is. And like that,
you're very black and white. It's a fight. We're going to go fight. That is what it is.
Like, I am not an emotional human. So to me, that stuff, if I decided to fight, I would be 100% fine to fight. And if it was affecting me, I would not fight. Yeah. So I assume that it is not going to affect him and he's going to fight and he's going to be fine. You know, I mean, I don't know. But again, I'm not an overly emotional person. So with me, it wouldn't. But I don't know how this stuff affects other people.
Okay.
Yeah, but I like Glenn here. Jeremiah Wells, Matt Semelsberger. I think I'm up, right?
Yeah, go ahead on this one. I want to hear what you got to say.
So, man, watching this, like, I don't even know who is Wells a favorite on this. Do you know the line wise?
It's a pick 'em.
Okay, so and the reason I ask is I saw some stuff. Maybe it was on Twitter that was like, Semelsberger's gonna pick him apart. He's a one punch type of guy. Blah blah blah. And so I was like, okay, like maybe whatever. So I'm looking at Semelsberger, and I like his striking. I like his movement. I like what he does. We saw this Matthews, who just fought. Who was his last fight? It's not Jacob Matthews, is it?
Jake Matthews.
Jake Matthews, who he just fought.
Mm-hmm.
And we both picked Matthews to beat Semelsberger.
Yep.
And it was kind of a Jacoby Mirza fight where you have somebody who's picking somebody apart on a technical level, and then they just get hit and hurt at the end of the round, and it kind of that's kind of what happened. Semelsberger, I thought, was getting picked apart, and not horribly, but just losing. I thought, he was losing, then he find those punches, whatever. But he is good. He comes from a traditional boxing background. His head movement is good. He does a lot of the right stuff. His takedowns defense isn't great, but he will get back up. And I think he even took Matthews down a little bit. So he's fine. He's fine. He's tough. He's good. We'll get back to him in a second. On the other side, you have Wells, who is 3-0 now in the UFC. The dude is just a whirlwind. He's a freaking tempest. He comes at you, and it's balls, guns blazing, going, doing. He hits hard. He blitzes. When he blitzes, he will throw 3, 4, 5 punches. He hurts people. He's a good cage wrestler, and he's a black belt. Comes from those Philly boys, so he can cage wrestle, and his jiu-jitsu's on point. His ground and pound's on point. So then the question is, does he death gas, which we haven't really seen him have an issue with that, which we were expecting. Generally, he's beating the people before he can death gas, but we saw him in his Orly Elvis fight go into the second round and was fine on a cardio level. And I think the more and more he fights, the less crazy he's going to be, which is going to hurt him eventually because the crazy is what makes him good, but I don't think it's too bad yet. And then it comes down to he doesn't do a lot, and then he blitzes and he swings, and then he doesn't do a lot. And so here's the thing is, we talk about Dricus du Plessis quite a bit as well. And there's a very similar comparison. Dricus does nothing, and then he blitzes and explodes these monumental explosions, and then he does nothing, and then he explodes, and then he does nothing. Rinse, repeat. That's what Jeremiah Wells does too. You guys, the reason why they're able to do nothing and then explode is because after the explosion or before the explosion, the opponents are sitting there waiting for the explosion, and so then they're not doing anything, and then the explosion occurs, and then they just want to get their bearings again, and they think they're waiting for them to gas to come on, but they're not going to gas because you're not doing anything on the interim. Semelsberger does the same, is he will move forward an inch, but he's not jabbing and overloading the volume, which is going to disrupt the big explosion of Wells, and so now you're really like, you're trying to time when he comes in, I'm going to snipe and time it. But if you're not pushing and pulling and like drawing that out, it's literally a coin flip, and then you're not expecting it. So you've either got to overload with volume going forward and disrupt, or not even just volume, like you're just pressing and going forward, but you got to be pressing and then moving away and feinting and lateral movement or something to where somebody can't just sit here. Okay, let's just stand here like this. And when I explode it, you get out of the way. Good freaking luck with that. I'm the one. It's like, I say it all the time. You and I get to say we're on a track race. We're on the blocks. I get to say go. I'm always going to win.
Yeah,
I
you
say
know what
go,
I'm saying.
and I'm always 5 feet in front of you before you realize that I said go. And that's what it is there. I think Semelsberger is the better, more complete fighter, probably all around. And I think he's going to lose because he's going to be waiting for these explosions. Wells is going to explode. And we already saw this fight with Chaos Williams.
Yep.
I think it's very similar. I think Wells is going to win, whether it's a knockout or a finish or a decision. It's the waiting and then the explosion. And
He's Chaos to a bigger degree. Hits harder, is stronger, better wrestler, honestly more technical everywhere than Chaos.
Yeah. But even so, I mean, Semelsberger could have beaten Chaos if he had done something in the interim, except for waiting. You explode. I try to figure out something to do in the interim. And, in Semelsberger, every time that Chaos would explode, he would shell up and run away. It's not like he's shelling up, planting, and firing. And I think that there is going to be the difference in the fight.
This should be for the CFFC title, not for
It should.
not for the UFC. But no, I'm just kidding. Both these guys are actually pretty good. I'm going to go Wells too. I don't love this one because we have talked about Wells a few times, and actually this is a weird matchup where I hated both guys' initial tape. Semelsberger has shown a lot of like really bad stuff, and from everything that we've heard, he's like not been the best trained in the past, and now he's kind of trying to figure it out and put it together while he's in the UFC. He's a tough guy that can wrestle a little bit, strike a little bit, and just kind of like generally game in there. That last fight was really impressive with Jake Matthews, who can box and can wrestle and does a lot of the things well. But you're right. It's almost going to be like Mirzakhanov and Jacoby. It's just like that big moment, that big thing that kind of scared. Yeah. Or Pedro and Gutierrez last week.
Yes.
One guy is supposed to do so much stuff on the outside, feels that power, and now you're waiting. When is it coming? When is it coming?
He doesn't do the stuff on the outside.
Exactly.
Even the Mirzakhanov and Jacoby fight, I was comparing that more to the Matthews-Semelsberger fight than the Wells fight. But the Wells is more of a Dreykus, comparison.
Yeah.
But look at that as Jacoby, in between the big explosions, Jacoby did stuff.
Throwing jabs, throwing low kicks, doing
whereas
stuff.
Whereas Semelsberger doesn't do stuff in between the big explosions.
Do you think that Wells wrestles in this fight?
I would assume so. I think that's kind of always Wells is. I think he will always wrestle in a fight.
He just strikes because it's there.
He blitzes, and then I think if the wrestling's there, and I think he'll get the takedown, and I think him on top is fucking handful.
Yeah. We know that the gas is coming sometime.
Mm-hmm.
We just know it's coming sometime. That's the hardest part is we know it's coming sometime. When is it going to come? And a guy like Semelsberger, if his chin can hold up and he stays around, like, I don't know, round 3 might be tough for Wells.
It could. If Wells gets tired, then anybody is going to do well after him. But again, as of now, you can't, until we see tape, we've never seen him death gas and die. And until we see tape, you can't assume that it's going to happen.
You're right. It's like so many times I get caught up with the chin thing, like the bad chin. We keep counting on these guys to have bad chins, and then they come out and don't get tagged in the chin, and then they win the fight because they're a better fighter.
We keep expecting somebody to outlast Dreykus Duplessis, and he tires them out with them. And the way that he fights, you've got to fight with him. And then now you're both tired, and there's not that big level.
Even Mirzakhanov last week, that was the big play, was like he's going to get tired because he did against Stefan and he did in a lot of those fights. And then when he didn't get tired quick enough, now it's a problem because he does have skills. Yeah. I'm going to go Wells too for that same reason, that grinding. Honestly, I think a lot of that team, a lot of their thing is just good game plans, good cage wrestling, good game plans, good jiu-jitsu. And that power is scary. It's like, how do you enter that? How do you throw 100 jabs and all you need to get hit with is one to end that fight?
And especially since Semelsberger's a power striker anyway, he's not a touch and move and counter and this and that. Yep. He's a guy that's go in the pocket and trade, give that good right hand. And now are you going to go right hand for right hand against?
Let's find out. Yeah.
That's a scary one for me. So, all right, we've got Yasmin, Lucindo, Brogan Walker. Again, I'm leaving this to you, man. I'm eventually I will get back to the women's fights, you guys, but until one interests me, I'm
gonna skip this one too. I didn't look at this one.
So, and if you guys, if somebody on the Patreon, I'll tell the guys on the Patreon, on the Discord, if they really want me to look at one of these fights, I will. You people out there in YouTube land, good luck. But if a Patreoner wants me to, I will. But all right, so we have Bobby Green and Jared Gordon. Thoughts?
I know there's retirement talk with Bobby Green, but man, he's so good. I love his. I mean, he's just so good at MMA. The way that he rolls, the way that he evades, like his footwork, his movement. We've talked about it for a long time. I could never fight like that. Hands down, chin out. Just the way, God, he's so clean. I love me some Bobby Green. Honestly, he feels like one of those guys. He could talk about retirement 100 times, and it feels like it wouldn't matter. Like once he's in there in the cage, he's gonna fight no matter what. I love Jaron Gordon too. I mean, he's Mr. Reliable, but I think Bobby Green is so much more athletic, such high volume, and Jared Gordon is a very clean striker, but he's very simple striker. It's kind of like you were saying earlier with Francis Marshall. It's very short strikes, very tight, very clean, but it's a lot of boxing heavy, where Bobby Green is a lot of movement on the outside, stick and move, stick and move, stick and move. I'm going to go Bobby Green on this one. The volume is such a good edge. Honestly, his defensive wrestling is super, super clean too, and just so athletic. So I like me some Bobby Green in this spot.
Yeah, so we've got Paddy Pimblett, and I'm looking at Jared Gordon's last few fights. Paddy Pimblett, which...
thought he won.
I don't know. I was going back and looking. I think I give it to Paddy.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll go why. So Gordon was defending a lot, but Paddy was just active, standing up. He's really throwing a lot. He's really doing a lot. And when all things are equal, the person who throws more is generally going to win in the eyes of the judges. Even if stuff doesn't land, you're blocking a kick. Well, if I land a punch, but you throw 30, like, come on, there's just optics to it. So it's easy for us on television to watch, and when we see the stats to watch. But I remember it was after the first or the second round, they put up a graphic of the punch count of what was landed, significant strikes with Paddy and with Gordon. And they were really similar. But Paddy must have thrown 10 times more. And I just didn't realize, they're not even counting all of those other strikes, but just the optics of it. And look, man, I can block a kick and it could still hurt me. So I don't know, just the optics of it. Initially, I thought Paddy had lost that fight, but then going back and watching it, I was like, and not by anything crazy, but I see how they gave it to Paddy a little bit. Anyway, so we have Paddy Pimblett, who's more of a grappler. Leonardo Santos, definitely a grappler. Grant Dawson, grappler. Joe Selecki, grappler. And my point is here, and although he lost to Grant Dawson in the third round, he was starting to come on, and Grant Dawson kind of had to man up.
Yeah,
and take it, because he was about to lose that if he didn't. And the similarity between those, Gordon is outlasting grapplers who gas, and
that's why he's all reliable, because he sticks around.
This is Bobby Green is not that guy. Bobby Green, it draws you in, pushes and pulls, has head movement and footwork for days. Is going to clean him up standing on the outside.
I thought you were about to make a case for Jared Gordon right now.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all, man. I think Bobby Green could be so far removed from his best self stylistically with the way that he strikes and moves and evades. I don't know what the path to victory here is for Gordon.
It'd have to be to grapple, right? Have to be to get him down, stay on top.
He's not going to out-grapple Bobby Green
exactly,
and get him down and stay on top. I can't fathom that's going to happen. Is he going to out-volume him? Is he going to land the big punch like Drew Dober did? He doesn't have power like Dober. With Jared Gordon would have to have the best game plan of his life to win this fight. And not to say that can't happen, but if he just goes out there skill for skill, like Bobby Green is going to win 100 out of 100.
Yeah, he's small in that matchup.
Maybe he has just a really, really good game plan that we're not really overseeing or thinking or whatever. But outside of just the most perfect matchup or just something weird, this is a Bobby Green fight to the end of the days for me.
I'm right there. I just love a Bobby Green fight. How exciting was that Drew Dober fight? Right. You're like, man, Bobby Green is the freaking man until he gets nuked. Crazy.
Right. All right, we've got, we're on the main card. We've got Brad Tavares and Bruno Silva coming up. This one, the next one, are really, really hard ones for me. I'm curious to hear your thoughts first, but I'm really confused on a few things with these. Tavares, Silva, what you got?
Man, Bruno Silva was really near and dear to my heart until the GM3 fight, obviously. It's like, what version do we get? But even with what version do we get, Bruno Silva is a little bit of kind of what you're talking about with Jared Gordon. He's so good all around, just like Jared Gordon, and then he's waiting until these guys gas, and then he hits them with the
or
death
screw
touch.
up, just
or screw
dumb
up.
shit.
Yeah, like Wellington Turman reverses him, gets to the top, and then puts him out. He does have insane ground and pound, but Brad Tavares, we're critical of Hawaiians a lot of times, but I always say him and Max are like the two Hawaiians that have pretty good cardio compared to the rest.
Yep.
Tavares does everything well. And what I like most is he seems intelligent with his striking. He sets things up. He creates patterns for himself. He's a very clean, beautiful striker. Whereas Bruno Silva is big power, very little setup. He's good everywhere, can defensively wrestle, has got good jiu-jitsu, really good power. I like a lot of things about him, but I think this is going to be a Brad Tavares tee-up spot. This is a good bounce back for him. Honestly, I think it's going to be like Rafa Garcia last week. If you just don't do too much, this should be an easy one, right? You punch, you put a 1-2 in his face, and you move again. Put a 1-2 in his face, move again. Just avoiding these big bombs, avoiding... honestly, I don't know if Bruno Silva even offensively wrestles, and even if he does, I think Brad's got good enough hips to avoid it. So, I think I really like Brad here.
Okay. I think wrestling is almost a moot point. Both of these guys, Tavares generally defensively wrestles and strikes. Silva will do that a lot as well, unless you're going against
Pereira. It feels like he has to.
Yeah, then he has to. So there's that. But who's not going to try to wrestle against Pereira outside of Izzy? You know what I mean? So
first of all, the size difference in that fight was
insane,
crazy.
Insane. And Bruno's a good size, good tall middleweight. But so there's that. So I think if somebody's hurt or somebody's going to clinch or like mix it up, great. But I think wrestling's kind of a non-existent point on this one. Going to the Bruno and the GM3 one is I actually don't think. Watching that initially, I thought something was wrong with Bruno. But then, again, it goes down to what we talk about. Bruno was walking forward and not touching and moving and doing.
Yep.
And GM3 was moving back so much that I think it really threw Silva off, and he was having to lunge in, and then Mearshart was just cleaning him for nothing more than Mearshart is timid and going backwards, and Bruno is trying to just swing, and he was just missing because GM3 is moving backwards.
He didn't know how to chase somebody down.
Yes.
He's used to someone exchanging in that pocket.
So I think that is a really bad example. Not a bad example. Like, I mean, it's the last fight. Like that is, but we're looking at that. But Tavares doesn't sit back and pull. Tavares is going to meet him in the middle. So now you have two guys who are going to fight in the middle. And now Silva actually has a decent jab, and he's long, and he's actually rangy. And I think with Tavares being there, I think this is actually going to be a really, really, really close fight.
It's going to be similar to the DDP fight, huh?
That's exactly it. And the difference, though, that I think is that when Silva does go, he almost kind of blitzes, almost DDP or Dricus du Plessis style. If you watch him, he's got a really good, sharp, clean jab. When he kicks, they're pretty clean kicks. But a lot of times when we saw in the Frolov fight beforehand, running in with these big looping right hand, left hook punches where he's almost marching his feet as he's going, kind of like du Plessis does, these big, wild, swinging strikes as he goes. And so he moves well and he does a lot of the right stuff, but he's not as technical as I remember him being. Again,
very loopy.
Yes, very loopy. And when you have a guy like Tavares who's tight and clean in the pocket,
one's going to get there first.
Yep. Now that said, I think that Tavares is the more technical striker. I think cardio-wise, I think fight IQ-wise, I think all of the things lead to Tavares. However, I think this is going to be a sloppy, drag-him-out type of fight like the du Plessis fight was with Tavares, with Bruno not having quite the power and quite the cardio. So I think I lean Tavares, but I think this is going to be these two guys swinging it out quite a bit. I
hope so.
And I think this is, and that's why I said I didn't really know how to go with this. I think it's going to be a very, very, very competitive fight. I think the over is probably very good, over 1.5, over 2.5.
Really?
Yeah, because these guys are both durable. They're both very good and they're both durable.
They're durable till they're not. They're going to be in the pocket. That changes everything.
That changes nothing because Brad Tavares, decision du Plessis, decision Omari Akhmedov, who's swinging and throwing big.
Yeah, but Bruno Silva, you've seen the way Bruno Silva hits.
Junior, Carlos Jr., he got hit with Edmond, but I think that was more when Edmund was coming up and nobody really knew the bat shit that Edmund was. It was almost like Jordan Wright.
Yep.
If you didn't know Jordan Wright, you're going to get clipped with him, and then you know him, you kind of know what to expect.
I hate that you're putting those two in the same category.
But decision Adesanya, he lost to Whitaker. But man, I think...
I get it. I just think Bruno Silva has bricks for hands, and if they're going to be in the pocket, somebody's going out. Especially after that war last time. That honestly, the last two wars they both had. So with Pereira and with GM3, how much Bruno was getting tagged up, and then DDP's last fight with Tavares.
If anybody goes out, I think it's Silva. I don't think it's Tavares. I think Tavares is.
I would agree with you.
Everything is good.
He's so much sharper to the point.
Yeah, and then it comes down to does Tavares actually finish him? So I actually like the over here, but I think these two are going to brawl. I think it's going to be a really close fight. Wouldn't surprise me to see Bruno win this. I lean Tavares on this, but it's a close
just
fight.
As a fan, I can't wait to watch this one.
Yeah.
I love these guys.
So, all right. Next up, we have Yadong Song and then Ricky Simone, which is another really weird one to me. Did you go first on the last one?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Ricky Simone. So this is one of those... He is a horse. He actually reminds me of Merab Dvalishvili.
Yeah.
And they fought each other. But kind of that go in, grab you, throw your ass down, big ass. Like, honestly, I think he's more technical than Merab. I actually think he's a little bit better than Merab. I just think Merab has that cardio that is going to win fights. And I know that Merab lost the fight to Ricky. That was a weird one on how it went out and what and this and that. But he was mauling Ricky up until that fight. And so you just, on a technical level, I think that Ricky is better. But then Merab just has balls and cardio for days. And so that's how he's
Ricky just needs a better doctor like Merab.
Exactly. So you got those things. Ricky Short, we saw what he did with Jack Shore. But Jack Shore, again, was like kind of like jabbing and moving away and trying to not engage with a lot of that. And then every time that he would try to engage, Ricky is so short that he would just clinch with him. I mean, shoot, just head on the inside, head on the outside. And then he's right there grabbing him. And then what led to the submission was the drop, but what led to the drop was the level changes into the wrestling, which opened up that big overhand, because you gotta do it. And then, but Sadong, that dude is all gas. And so I think it's not going to be, I think Sadong has a better shot of beating Ricky than a lot of other guys because he's going to throw and he's going to kick. And if Ricky is level change in, he is just going to run right into shit just because it's going to be there. And the other thing with Sadong, before we even get to a prediction, is he does have good cardio. He will throw down. He's at alpha male, so those guys are wrestling. And I don't think that they have very good game plans. I think that they wrestle a lot and that the wrestling will be there for Sadong. And I think that eventually he is going to find strikes on Ricky. And I think a lot of this is going to be, if he doesn't knock Ricky out and clean him, I think it's going to be grappling versus striking. And Ricky's not really this amazing ground and pounder. Well, he finds his entrance.
He's a good control guy. His jiu-jitsu is very clean.
Yep, his jiu-jitsu's there. He controls, but there's not a ton of damage on it. And then I think it goes to damage versus control. And we've been seeing a lot lately that the control is losing to the damage. And I think it's probably nuts because cardio. We always talk about cardio and wrestling, and I do see those things as being a very heavy favorite with Ricky. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Sadong find Ricky's chin because he's just down as shit. And so the bad answer that nobody really wants to hear is, I think if you really, really, really want to bet this, I think the smart bet is like, okay, Ricky wins this. But I really think that Sadong is going to find the chin and do some damage and hurt Ricky in this fight.
You think the smart answer is Ricky Simone?
Well, I think the smart answer is the wrestler with the cardio. It generally is the answer that I would lean toward, is the guy with the cardio and the guy with the wrestling. But I think Sadong is gonna clean him.
Jeez, I just don't know why. I feel like this is not a close fight.
With Yadong just murdering him?
I kind of think so.
Okay.
And I love Ricky Simone. I've talked about Ricky Simone as one of my favorite fighters for that reason. And not only is his wrestling good, he's one of the very few people. His jiu-jitsu is excellent as well.
Once he gets it to the ground.
Yeah, and then once you go back up, he waits till you're high, goes back down, locks his arms around your legs, and you're back down. I think he's phenomenal. He's so many things, and he's really, really good. I don't think this fight is particularly close.
Okay.
I mean, watch the first wrestling exchange with Sandhagen and Song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gets in on the legs. First thing he does is a beautiful sprawl. He's stuffing the head, underhooks the leg, turns his hips over, and puts Corey Sandhagen on his back. It's just like, that's such classic, beautiful stuff. Now, I know Ricky wrestles a little bit, obviously a little bit different than Corey Sandhagen, but his mechanics are there. His reaction time, his technique, everything is there for Song Yadong. He is so clean, and he is such a good striker. I mean, he's come such a long way, and he's so young, right? Can we talk about that? Are we allowed to?
We got it really quickly because we've mentioned this before.
But I told the Discord people that I would bring it up on this one.
Well, yeah, I think he moved here, and they're like, oh, he's like 19 years old.
He's listed at 25 right now. Is he 25 or is he 30?
Yeah, I think he's probably closer to 35. I think he's closer to 35 than he is 25.
Yeah. So here was the thing, right? Because Lee fought him, and that was in 2013. So that would have made him 15 years old, if that's true. What was the thing? Lee said he knew him from back then, and
something I forget.
He was actually like 18 or 19 when they fought, or something like that. Yeah. So he's not allegedly 25.
Look, he might not be 35, but he's not 25.
Do you have any more to elaborate on that?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I just the rumors that we've heard forever that he's young.
Okay, yeah. Talking to Lee, he told us something like they fought in 2013. That would have made Song 15 years old. Yeah. But he said he knew him from childhood, and they came up together, and they were the same age.
Almost like the same age or something.
Yeah, and Lee's what, 30, 31, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't believe everything. I mean, we've seen the Olympics.
We've seen that a lot. We've seen, look, there are kids in Little League with full-on beards.
Yeah, not everybody's age.
Check the birth certificate.
Yeah, check the birth certificates. Cuba
Photoshop
and China.
These days,
yeah. Okay, so he's very good for a 25-year-old.
For a young, inexperienced 25-year-old.
It's almost crazy that he's 25, right? Yeah, but honestly, I think this is his time. He had a very close fight with Kyler Phillips, who I think is a phenomenal striker. Honestly, it's not hard to game plan when you know the other guy is only going to take you down.
What they're going to do.
Sprawl and brawl. And then I'm going to tag him up on the feet. Boom, this is what he wants to do. The Jack Shore fight was honestly eye-opening just for Ricky not being able to implement that game plan of just spam takedowns on guys. I love me some Song in this spot. I'm going to take a little plus money on it.
Good. I'm happy that I hear that because I was thinking I was crazy for picking Song.
I don't know why he's an underdog, and I don't mean that because I love Ricky Simone, and I would pick Ricky in almost every single spot possible, but just not in this one.
Stylistically, this is a good fight for Song.
He's so athletic, and he's got such good takedown defense, and then he hits like a freaking truck, and it's not uneducated striking. He's
it's very clean.
Yep.
But he's also aggressive with the striking too, which I like. That's not going to let Ricky always dictate the pace and how the fight goes. And that's the thing is, you cannot let other people dictate how they want to go. It's what we're talking about in a couple fights already. You've got to be there doing stuff to disrupt the rhythm.
Ricky does leave his chin open a lot of times too. He does swing so wide, and that's almost, I think, why he gets a lot of the takedowns is he's throwing these punches out here and gets people to block and opens up that lane for him. He gets a little wide and a little chin up in the air.
Ooh, I'm yawning. It's middle of the day and I'm yawning. All right, we got main event. Main event. Subscribe, like, share, Discord. All the stuff. We checked all the boxes. Pavlovich, Curtis Blaydes. I'm going to keep this one short because I do like Sergei Pavlovich. He's done all of the right stuff.
Are you Sergei for Sergei?
Sergei for Sergei. And then we have Curtis Blaydes, 17-3. That Derek Lewis loss, man. Oh my God.
Brutal.
That was Brutus. And then that Francis Ngannou loss. That was brutal. Twice. So those are his losses. And really, you've got to go to Sergei. That's the only way Curtis Blaydes is going to lose this, is if he just gets Derek or Ngannou just right off the bat, boom, cleaned up, blasted, timed on the way in. He's got the Tai Tuivasa win. He's got the Derek Lewis win. He beat the very tough Maurice Green. So you really have got to go like, all right, can he time this? In Sergei has kind of cleaned his people up pretty early with timing those big shots. and the only time that Blaydes has really lost is getting hit with those kind of time, those big shots. How many unicorns match up on both sides?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I cannot unsee Alistar getting a takedown, and that was a wrap. And if you want to hedge, you go like Sergei under a round.
It's not even good enough to do it.
Yeah,
the odds aren't even good enough.
Knockout first half of the first round.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like Curtis Blaydes, if he doesn't get knocked out in the first minute or two, he will get a takedown, and that is a wrap, people. I really like Curtis Blaydes here. And I really, that is the entirety of the fight, is like you have two big heavyweights, one who is who's just dynamic and powerful and a really good striker, and the other one who's dynamic and powerful and a really good wrestler. And you have one who can't take a great shot and one who gets put on their back and is a turtle. I mean, that's it. Like this is a very black and white.
Your cheeks are going to be clenched one way or the other, no matter what side you're on. But I'd rather be on the side with the guy with more skills, more cardio. Honestly, pretty much everything besides the incredible chin.
Well, like I said, I'm pretty upset that you didn't comment on the black and white comment.
Oh, I get it.
Very black and white here. And what do we never bet?
That was really clever, actually. So somebody in the Discord pulled up the never bet a white parlay. It was like Jeremiah Wells, Gomis, like all the Curtis Blaydes.
I think we've said all we need to say. And really, Sergei,
about as white as it comes.
First of all, he's super white, and he can't fight off his back. That's the fight for me right there.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, think about it. It's hard to just put this fist on this chin in a perfect way where it's going to put him out. Like you said, so many unicorns have to line up so many times
in a row.
Yeah. Can it happen when you have a moving target on a guy who's going to try to take you down? I don't think he's not a big kicker. He's mostly hands, right? Throw feint, boom, in on the legs.
It could happen. I mean,
of course it could.
If he wins, that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I don't see it happening.
We can't keep betting on this one big thing to happen.
Yep. Skill for skill, Curtis Blaydes gets inside, gets a takedown, murders Sergei.
That's it.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
All right, go on vacation.
I'm going on vacation. I'll see you guys back here next week with a tan.
I'm on the run from the IRS, so I don't know if I'll see you guys back.
Next time. We'll see you.